The death of a character can have some unforeseen and unusual consequences. Hey guys, how are you doing today? It's PE Gilbert, your blogger, writing consultant, and the author to the fantasy novella, The Sultan's Daughter. And today we are going to continue the somewhat morbid but extremely vital topic of a death scene in a narrative by looking at part 2 of unforeseen consequences that can arise following a death scene. But before we go any further with today's video, hit that subscribe button. In part 1 of this topic, we outlined what constitutes a normal consequence following the death of a character in a narrative, and then we looked at 3 unusual or unforeseen consequences that can arise following a death scene. And these were: 1. When death inspires the main character to change course. 2. When death exposes the ruthlessness of certain environments or industries. And 3. When death reveals a new side to the fallen character. Today we are going to look at the final 4 unforeseen consequences following a death scene, and I hope my tips make the writing process a little easier for you as well. 4. When death leaves the main character vulnerable. When a powerful figure dies, whether naturally or otherwise, it is likely to leave the protagonist without a protector. And without a protector, the protagonist is vulnerable to his ambitious rivals, who are usually more politically cunning than he is. Our first example of what can happen to a protagonist after his protector dies is General Maximus, played by Russell Crowe in Gladiator. Early on in the film, the aging emperor Marcus Aurelius is strangled to death by his son Commodus after Marcus Aurelius tells him,
"You will not be emperor. My powers will pass to Maximus."
Commodus was always envious of General Maximus because his father loved Maximus more than his own son. Thus, unsurprisingly, after Commodus seizes power, he arrests Maximus and orders for his wife and son to be killed. Maximus slays those guarding him and flees to save his family. But he is too late, as Commodus's men get there first. The next thing Maximus knows, he has been enslaved and is to fight in the gladiatorial arena. Our second example of how a death can leave the protagonist vulnerable comes from a Game of Thrones, the first installment in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire saga. Around 2/3 of the way through the narrative, King Robert Baratheon's death in a hunting accident leaves Lord Eddard Stark, his loyal friend and advisor, susceptible to the low cunning of Cersei Lannister. When the Honourable Lord Eddard refuses to bend the knee and swear fealty to the false King Joffrey, Lord Eddard is arrested and later beheaded for treason. However, the death of a character need not necessarily entail enslavement or death for your protagonist, as per the above 2 examples, especially if you, the writer, are catering for a younger audience. Instead, you can make your protagonist flee. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the 6th installment in the series, Professor Snape slays Professor Dumbledore in seemingly a shocking act of betrayal. Throughout the series, Dumbledore had been the bulwark against the Dark Lord and his forces. His death leaves the school, as well as Harry, Hermione and Ron, in a vulnerable situation, as they cannot stay in Hogwarts any longer. Consequently, throughout the next installment, The Deathly Hallows, Harry, Hermione and Ron are on the run looking for help in order to reclaim Hogwarts from the Dark Lord and defeat him once and for all. And lastly for this section, let's look at Cinderella. In the opening narration of the 1950 version, Cinderella's father dies somewhat mysteriously, meaning that she is without a guardian against her evil stepmother, Lady Tremaine, and her bratish stepsisters, Drusilla and Anastasia. With Lady Tremaine now being the new lady of the manor, and with Cinderella yet to come of age, Lady Tremaine can do as she sees fit with her stepdaughter. She turns Cinderella into a maid and forces her to live in the attic, despite Cinderella's high birth and her being her father's only heiress. 5. When death enables others to become more powerful. As we saw earlier in Gladiator, the death of a powerful figure can lead to another seizing power in a coup. Yet, a contender to the throne, whether new or old, need not arrogate power swiftly in order to take power for himself. Sometimes, an unusual consequence of a death scene is that the death of a powerful figure results in a power vacuum, where multiple players jockey to fill it. At the end of A Storm of Swords, the third instalment in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire saga, Tyrion Lannister ignominiously murders his father, Lord Tywin, while the latter sits on the privy. Lord Tywin Lannister was the most powerful and feared man in the Seven Kingdoms, and his death opens up a power struggle. His daughter, Cersei Lannister, as Queen Regent to the boy king Tommen I, tries to fill the vacuum herself. But she is not the only one who believes her time has come. The Tyrells, the house that Queen Marjorie comes from, sniff the same scent of opportunity and believe, with some justification, that Cersei is unfit to rule. Moreover, the same is true for the Sparrows, a band of religious fanatics who are led by the High Sparrow. It is to Cersei's shame that she turns to these fanatics to try and rid herself of her perceived enemies during A Feast for Crows, the fourth instalment in the series. Still, the Sparrows would never have risen to prominence had Lord Tywin lived. He would have crushed them without a moment's hesitation. Therefore, his death is crucial in the Sparrows' ascent to power. 6. When death causes uncertainty and new alliances. As we have discussed already, the death of a powerful figure can have some unusual consequences. Another corollary of the death of a powerful figure is the uncertainty that it causes, and it can result in some brow-raising new alliances that can shape the rest of the story. For example, let's look at the effect that King Renly Baratheon's death has on the Tyrells in A Clash of Kings, the second instalment in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire saga. After Robert Baratheon dies in A Game of Thrones, the War of the Five Kings breaks out. One of the claimants to the Iron Throne is Renly, Robert's youngest brother, who is backed by House Tyrell, one of the most powerful families in the Seven Kingdoms. But Stannis, the middle of the three Baratheon brothers, is furious with Renly and believes that Renly has betrayed him. In Stannis' eyes, and that of the law, Renly has obstructed him and taken away his right to be king. Via adultery, dark magic and a shadow, Stannis murders Renly. Renly's death leaves the Tyrells in an awkward situation. They will not side with Stannis as he murdered Renly, and they seem to have no interest in an alliance with the North either. That means their only two options are either to stay neutral for the rest of the war, or to beg the crown, i.e. Lord Tywin Lannister, to forgive them. They choose the latter and agree an alliance with the Lannisters. As a result, they help to defeat Stannis at the Battle of Blackwater Bay, thereby getting justice for Renly. Moreover, the Tyrells are given a seat at court, and Marjorie Tyrell is betrothed to King Joffrey, so she will become queen one day. Thus, Renly's death shows that a protagonist can turn a crisis into a favourable situation for himself and his family, if he is shrewd. 7. When the death of another shows a different side to the protagonist. In some situations, when previously unknown facts are revealed, we can gain a new perspective on the POV character, such as Sir Jaime Lannister in A Song of Ice and Fire, and I promise this is the last example that we shall have in this video from A Song of Ice and Fire. Early on in the saga, we learn that Sir Jaime Lannister earned his nickname the Kingslayer because he stabbed King Aerys II, also known as the Mad King, in the back, despite being one of the king's bodyguards. This leads many to draw the conclusion, and not without reason, that Sir Jaime is dishonourable and treacherous.
You are no knight. You have forsaken every vow you ever took.
But in A Storm of Swords, when Sir Jaime is in the bath with Brienne, we find out that Sir Jaime did not kill Aerys II out of dishonour or treachery. Rather, he did it because the Mad King was going to set fire to the capital, burning everyone within it, including 500,000 innocent women and children. Sir Jaime's revelation makes the audience realise that he is a more complex character than we initially thought, that he is, surprise surprise, a man of conscience. that he desired to save people when he stabbed the Mad King in the back in an instant turns him from a villain into an anti-hero. Our second example of how the death of another gives us a new perspective on our protagonist comes in Stephen King's Dark Tower. Yet, unlike with Sir Jamie, here we see our protagonist's dark side. At the end of The Gunslinger, the first installment in the series, our protagonist, Roland Deschain, faces a conundrum. Jake, a boy he is looking after, is about to fall into an abyss and die. Roland can either turn around and save him, or he can stay where he is and speak with his nemesis, called Walter / the Man in Black, in order to get some answers on how to reach the Dark Tower, which is Roland's ultimate objective. Roland decides that the Dark Tower means more to him than Jake, and so he lets Jake fall to his death. Consequently, the audience learns, with chilling realization, that Roland is a determined sociopath and that he will sacrifice anyone to achieve his ambitions. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you for watching, and I really hope you have enjoyed this video and that it helps to make the writing process a little easier for you as well. To give a quick rundown of the 7 unusual consequences of a death scene, they are: 1. When death inspires the main character to change course. 2. When death exposes the ruthlessness of certain environments and industries. 3. When death reveals a new side to the fallen character. 4. When death leaves the main character vulnerable. 5. When death enables others to become more powerful. 6. When death causes uncertainty and new alliances. And 7. When the death of another shows a different side to the protagonist. Like, comment and hit that subscribe button and tell me, what do you think of my tips? What do you think I have missed out? What other unusual consequences of a death scene have occurred in fiction and fantasy that you think I have missed out? Moreover, my debut fantasy novella, The Sultan's Daughter, is out. If you are looking for a book that is short, fast-paced and full of suspense, then check it out. And then you'll be able to see whether or not I keep to my own writing tips as well. I have left a link for the book in the description below. Otherwise, join me next time when we'll conclude this somewhat morbid but extremely vital topic, when we'll discuss what not to do in a death scene. Until then, keep well. Once again, guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it and I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button and then you will be the first to receive more awesome content from my channel, and I hope to see you again soon.